Howdy, howdy. We are live on a Friday night with another edition of the Tex-Trek podcast, another Back-Trekking Retrospective. So we're really going back in time with this one, back to the 1950s with the Enterprise episode Carbon Creek. I'm very excited to discuss this fan favorite episode with Joel and Taylor. I just remembered I should show off my as I always greet the audience howdy howdy when we live stream. I have my my howdy howdy pillow here
Look at that.
on the screen. So custom made in Star Trek font. So thank you very much, Taylor, for that
You're
gift.
welcome.
I've had it for a few weeks. I just always forget to bust it out, but I didn't forget this time.
Thank
Yeah,
goodness.
there's people in the audience chatting, so they're probably ready for us to get things started. So we can go ahead and get this show on the road. I'm Fatheree,
I'm Joel.
I'm Miss Taylor.
and this is Tex-Trek.
Engage.
Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 325th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we take a deep look at Star Trek, old and new. Tonight, we are talking about Star Trek Enterprise Season 2, Episode 2. Teleplay by Chris Black, story by Rick Berman, Brandon Braga, and Dan O'Shannon, directed by James Contner. This is the episode where we find out about T'Pol's great-grandma Vulcan visiting Earth in the 1950s in small-town Pennsylvania. So, a bit of a fan favorite, it seems. I hear this one mentioned a lot when people are talking about Star Trek Enterprise. So we're going to get into that in just a moment, but I do need to do a little bit of quick housekeeping. And I'm going to let y'all know that next week we're not doing a Back-Trekking Retrospective. We're going to do something a little different. I'll have some more details on that in just a moment. But before I get into that, I want to give a big thank you and shout out to the wonderful people in the Tex-Trek Patreon who keep the weekly show going. So thank you so very, very much. Starfleet Sohel, Cake is Eternal, Crazy Dutchie, Joanne Robertson, John Dog, Geek Filter, Quark Spar, Stephanie Durantes, Matthew Averett, Braxton, Chuck A., Joel Vallis, Benjinium, Arthur Lamoureux, our associate producer, Chris Garris, Dave Farabee, Dave A. Gregory, and our anonymous supporters. Just want to remind everyone that we do have monthly Patreon watch parties with our patrons, and the next one is scheduled for Saturday, April 19th. So in about a week, and it's going to be at 3:30 p.m. Central. And it's going to be a double feature. We're going to watch the original series episode, Balance of Terror, classic episode, one of the, I think, in my opinions, one of my all-time favorite episodes of the original series. But it gave us the Romulans, gave us Mark Leonard in Star Trek. And we're going to follow that up with Equality of Mercy, the Strange New World Season 1 finale episode that gave us that alternate version of the Balance of Terror story, with Pike in command instead of Kirk. So I think those two will pair really well. Really looking forward to watching those with the fun crowd that always shows up to the Patreon watch parties. So those are open to anyone in the Patreon. You can come in as little as $2 a month, and that will get you into the monthly watch parties. And if you can afford to be more generous, there are some additional perks as well. Like if you can help at the bridge crew level, we'll throw extra watch parties on your birthday. So if anyone supports at the bridge crew level or higher and you have a May birthday, let me know, and we will schedule something in May. But speaking of birthdays, I see Cake is Eternal in the live audience is asking me, "Hey, how were the birthday wings?" So I was eating some hot wings earlier. Just had my was it 39th birthday? So my 40th eve. But yeah, I had some good hot wings last night. So gonna smoke a brisket tomorrow. So I told Taylor like, oh, I turned 39. I immediately started smoking meat. So
Well, they say that you either, once you turn 40, you either go down the path of barbecuing and smoking, or you go down the path of like history fanatic stuff. So
I'm a history buff too, though. So
I feel like you started that one early. So now your only option for
mm.
40 is smoking briskets.
So the price of being a early bloomer, I guess. But also, what's going to happen next week? We won't be talking about a Star Trek episode, but we will be talking about an episode of Black Mirror. So the day of recording right now, it's April 11th. Actually, it was yesterday on my birthday, on April 10th. They released the new season of Black Mirror on Netflix. It's okay, you don't have to watch all of them. You can just skip to the very last one.
That's what I
But
did.
they gave us a sequel to the USS Callister episode that Dave and I covered on the show a little over a year ago, I believe. So something that we talked about last year. But yeah, a USS Callister sequel. That was the. How would y'all describe USS Callister? It was like the Black Mirror episode that told a story inspired by certain Star Trek fandom and pop culture. It's hard to explain, but it's not Star Trek, but it's very Star Trek influenced.
It's there's that sort of mini genre of non-official Trek, like Galaxy Quest. So
Yeah,
it fits in that very well.
yeah. So it was a lot of fun talking about the previous episode, USS Callister. So we'll unpack that one next week, but then we'll probably get back to the back-trekking retrospectives. But yeah, looking forward to changing things up a bit next week. So please, if you haven't seen it, go watch it on Netflix. Just watch there's not too much homework involved. Just watch the original USS Callister episode first. I believe that was season 4, and then the new one just came out, season 7 on Netflix now. Very last episode. So scroll all
It's
the
a
way to
little
the top.
longer. First one was
Yeah.
75 minutes. This was 90, but
Yeah, so it's an hour and a half. So block out some
not too bad.
time, but looking forward to discussing that though very soon. But yeah, enough about Black Mirror. Let's get into this episode of Star Trek Enterprise. So Carbon Creek, just to refresh things for people, I'm going to recap it by reading the official synopsis, and then I'll expand on that with some spoilers. So the synopsis that I pulled off of Memory Alpha says, T'Pol tells Archer and Tucker a story about her great-grandmother and 2 other Vulcans who crash-landed in a small Pennsylvania town in the year 1957. And yeah, that actually pretty much sums it up. They were there studying Earth because the Soviets just launched Sputnik, the first artificial satellite to come from our planet. So these Vulcan scientists were studying that. They have some ship problems, crash in small town Pennsylvania. And after befriending some local humans, 2 of them decide to leave when they finally get their rescue ship comes to get them. But one stays behind, and we're kind of led to believe like, okay, maybe the story is true, maybe it isn't. And then in the final few seconds of the episode, they give us some pretty damning evidence that it did in fact all happen. At least that seems to be the intent of the episode, that these are accurate reportings on events that were passed down into Paul's family. Joel, since you're our guest this week, I'll just let you go first if you want to give your opening statement and kind of tell us your broad impressions on Carbon Creek before we get into specifics in the episode breakdown.
Yeah, sure. I love this episode and always have since it aired. it's sort of weird because this is sort of like world building and character development with plausible deniability. You find out at the end, it's true, but you don't know. Every little bit might not be or might be. So it's got fun ambiguity, which you don't normally get in Star Trek like this. So it's super fun, and then you have a lot of action in mines, a very distinct form of underground thing that is not a cave. So that's different and fun too.
That's true. It's technically not a cave.
Yeah. And also, they did a risky thing, making it so much like City on the Edge. Because if you screw up and you make something like City on the Edge, you'll be just raked over the coals. But it actually is super great. And it's not, I don't know if it's better than City, probably not. But it is a great episode. And yeah, I love it. How about you, Miss Taylor?
I think it's a good episode. I'm not like over the moon about it. I think it's entertaining enough, but it feels very safe to me and it's a good story. I really love the dynamic of the three Vulcans as they're navigating the months that they're stranded on Earth. Like, I like watching them understand like humanity, and like it develops over time and they learn to like socialize and work with them, and they're exploring like Earth interests and the professions and the people. They really become like integrated in the town and like part of the community, and I love how so many of the characters really embrace them, especially Mistral. So yeah, I was like really stoked about Mistral staying at the end, and I loved him being juxtaposed with Strawn, who was very eager to like go home. But I think all of it is really good. Definitely one of the best Enterprise episodes. My biggest like kind of ick with this episode is Trip and Archer like not really believing T'Pol. Like, I think some of the dialogue with her is kind of awkward and like rude and a little bit like I don't really know. He's just, especially Trip, he's just like, oh, you're yanking my chain. And it's kind of weird that Archer's bringing up like her LOA and stuff like during her evaluation. He's like really pressing to like know some intimate information. Like, it's kind of awkward.
What were you doing taking a week of PTO all these years ago and going to this strange location? Yeah, that's a weird
thing.
It's
like saying you were sick for 4 days 18 years ago. Like, why? What?
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
They're not covered by human HR, so yeah, I guess.
Well, it'd be VR. It'd be Vulcan resources, right?
There you go.
So instead of human resources. But for me, I've always enjoyed this episode. It's kind of fun to go shoot an episode on location and kind of change things up and get some different environments, different settings on Star Trek Enterprise instead of just being on the ship. But the thing that immediately stood out to me way back in 2002 when I first saw it, and I've heard other people bring it up too, is the undeniable parallels between this story and a movie that came out shortly before this. In 1999, there was a Jake Gyllenhaal movie called October Skies that was set in this time period, that was set in Pennsylvania in 1957 after the Soviets launched Sputnik, and it's based on a true story about some high school boys in rural Pennsylvania near some coal mines who were experimenting with model rockets and ended up having some like successful model rocketry and became like kind of these big like science fair superstars. But as it was all based on an actual story that
the book is called Rocket Boys, not October Sky.
That's right. Yeah, the book was called Rocket Boys, but a true story, and just the whole movie. If you watch by the way, like the movie would have been on like HBO and Showtime a lot during this time in 2002. So I think it's very likely that these writers saw it. And this was also after like I think like a 14 episode streak of like Rick Berman and Brandon Braga being on like every single story credit or scripting credit for Star Trek Enterprise. Like they like just like during season 1 and season 2, they had a lot of trouble like getting a writer's room together and like holding it. It was almost kind of like early TNG, kind of like that revolving door of writers. And I mean, they were strapped just to finish scripts, just to finish these seasons. But yeah, like they clearly like took a lot of inspiration from this movie. It's about like, you know, teenagers that are math nerds that like they want to go to college and not like work in the coal mines, and so a lot of the things that we see in this episode. However, just, you know, regardless of where the inspiration came from, it is still it's still a good episode that I think embodies a lot of the characteristics and traits that, you know, we like and we respect in Star Trek. That, you know, like that value for compassion for your fellow life form, the pursuit of knowledge, and you know, the things that the character Jack is going through. The Vulcan Mistral and his kind of fascination with humanity, and both like a scientific curiosity, but also like an emotional, compassionate curiosity. It's fun to see Earth as the pre-warp planet, and these other characters. You know, the Vulcans we get in this episode, they're kind of like the proxy Starfleet, and they're the ones having to deal with, you know, the Prime Directive type moral quandaries, and Earth, 1950s Earth, becomes the planet of the week. So that's kind of interesting. But I think it is fair what Taylor said. It is kind of a safe episode. Nothing too remarkable. Just very solid execution. But all that said, we can go ahead and go into the episode breakdown, where we will go through the entire episode, basically beat by beat, starting with the very beginning. We open with T'Pol, Trip, and Archer sitting down at the captain's table, having a glass of wine to celebrate T'Pol's 1 year of service on Enterprise, the longest any Vulcan has ever served with a human crew. The previous record was only 10 days.
36 times the previous record. Look at T'Pol go.
That's impressive. And they also asked T'Pol to tell the story of why were you at Carbon Creek, Pennsylvania, which, you know, Taylor pointed out is kind of odd that you know, Archer went through her file and like was like, explain this. Why would you go to a small rural town for no apparent reason?
I
But
do love that she says, like, is this part of my evaluation? Like, and she's like, why are you pressing me on this? Like, is it really going to count towards my 1 year review?
I mean, to be fair, it's kind of a small ship. There's only like 60 people on this ship, so they probably get tired of just like
The
like
same old stuff.
yeah, so like, oh, I really want you to tell me a story. I don't have anything else to do, so.
And a Vulcan is going to ace that evaluation so much that he probably started digging, trying to find something to, and it was useless. And then he saw Carbon Creek, and then.
But we get the flashback from the very beginning, so we kind of have like this framing device. They'll occasionally cut back to the captain's table on the NX-01. I was telling Taylor, like, when Trip is interrupting, I was like, oh, he's like the little boy and the Princess Bride who keeps saying, like, where are the sports in the story? You know, so it's kind of like Trip when he's like, now wait a minute. Next thing you know, you're going to tell me Neil Armstrong wasn't the first man on the moon. So he's the little kid from Princess Bride.
And he keeps, well, actually. It's like, well, actually, first contact was in. Yeah.
But we get a cool Vulcan ship with some cool Vulcan brown leather jackets, or their science uniforms. It kind of makes them seem kind of incompetent. Like, y'all can't even go look at like Sputnik without crashing your ship. Like,
well, at least they didn't hit Sputnik, but
yeah,
that's about all I can say. Yeah.
I guess these 20th century Vulcan ships have issues on occasion, but we get the crash in Pennsylvania, and the Vulcan captain is killed, forcing Tamir, who is T'Pol's ancestor, her great grandmother, to assume command over Mestral and Strawn, the other Vulcans. So one thing I've struggled with while making notes on this episode is that Tamir, it's hard to keep Tamir and T'Pol separate, because Jolene is basically just playing T'Pol as Tamir, and the writers basically just wrote Tamir to be T'Pol. Like, you're like, oh yeah, you're the first officer, and you think like humans are kind of beneath you, but you're not like totally condescending. You actually do have like a bit of heart. But yeah, basically you're the exact same thing as your great granddaughter T'Pol.
It runs in the family. Yeah.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
I do like how they eat all their emergency rations in 5 days. What a bunch of piggy Vulcans. Come on, stretch that out. Or did they just have like a candy bar and that was their 5? I don't know.
No, we see like the pile of like the spent
Oh,
rations, although it looked like
they
it
were
was like
bored.
liquid. But yeah, after a while without food, Mistral starts to get like, maybe we should start eating meat. Like, look at this tasty deer over here. That looks pretty good.
Which means deer had first contact with the Vulcans before humans.
That's
Kinda. I guess
true.
they didn't talk to them, but they don't really talk. So.
I mean, like the way it's shot and edited, like the deer looks straight at them. Like I think there's like
It's
some
true.
eye contact involved. But
You're like, oh god, more aliens. Yeah.
what stood out to me in that sequence though is the Vulcan Strawn, who the whole time he's the one who's like most eager to get back home. He's the one who seems to have the hardest time adjusting to life on Earth. But when Mistral is like, this creature, this mammal over here, that might sustain us for a little bit. And then like Strawn is just so like offended by that as a Vulcan. He's like, do you suggest we eat it? Like he's just like disgusted with that idea.
He's like, result or using savagery or whatever.
Yes, don't want any of that savage venison. Nope.
I'm guessing then like Vulcans have been vegetarians for a long time at this point.
Yeah. I mean, that goes back to it's one of the yesterday episodes I can never remember. Is it All Our Yesterdays when they're at the library in the original series when Spock and
I believe
McCoy go
that's
back in
the right
time
one,
to
but I could be wrong too.
the caveman days? But it's in that like Vulcan in that Spock mentions like Vulcan ancestors who they used to eat meat, but yeah, they had evolved beyond that savagery many generations ago. So
I always assumed it came about the same time they all embraced logic. It's like somewhere in there.
but yeah, without any food, they decide to go into town. So the original title of this episode was Population 611 or 611, which we see that on the Carbon Creek sign, like the welcome to Carbon Creek sign entering town. It says Population 611, so pretty small.
That's commitment. You gotta every population increase, you have to carve a new sign.
Anytime a baby is born,
Yeah.
or someone dies.
So you can't leave town because it'll cost too much. Sorry, Jack.
If you leave town, you have to buy the new sign.
So if people don't know, we always stream these episodes before we talk about them live on YouTube Friday nights. We have a group viewing of them Thursday nights in the Tex-Trek Discord server. There's a link wherever you're watching or listening to this, and you can come join the Discord and watch with us on Thursdays. But something that Jill47, who is here now in the live audience, but she pointed out yesterday in Discord is that a town this small, only 611 people, they would notice, if someone stole your clothes. If someone stole your clothes and was just wearing them around town, it would be pretty easy to come across them. So,
I mean, one shirt could blow away. It had probably, but the jacket, that's not cheap. I guess it's more of a sweater, but
they do have to like dial up the sexuality, because that was like a big goal of Enterprise. Was how can we sexualize Jolene this week? So they have that shot of her getting dressed when they're stealing the laundry off of someone's clothesline. They have like that shot of her putting the dress on. Turns out she's putting it on backwards.
Yeah, but they did make it a little more old-fashioned. They didn't do it like they normally do. It's the only thing I can say about it. That's it's still unnecessary. Doing the behind the sheet thing, because that was like you could do that in like the 40s, I think. I'm not sure about the 30s Hays Code, but maybe before that. But yeah, completely unnecessary.
I do like the performances in this episode, though. I think all three of our Vulcan actors, even the captain we get briefly, they're all pretty good at like being Vulcan, though, because it's kind of a hard thing to play. You can't be totally without emotion like a robot. Like there's a certain like Vulcan sass that Leonard Nimoy pioneered that all of the really great Vulcan actors are able to embody at some level. But yeah, just like when they're like disguised, they have their ears covered, but like they're walking down the street, they still look so Vulcan-y and out of place.
Yeah,
That
like their
posture alone,
posture. Yeah.
Yeah. So good job. All three of them were pretty great at that. But they also go into the what was it, the Lonely Pine Bar, I believe was the name of the bar and restaurant they
Pine
hang out
Tree
at.
Bar.
I think it was just
Yeah.
Pine Tree. Yeah.
Yeah, Pine Tree Bar and Grill.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I see that here. So they go into the Pine Tree Bar, and that's where they meet Maggie, the waitress, and her son Jack, Billy the pool shark. One thing that I noticed when they're kind of walking around town before they get in the bar is that they see like the coal miners, and they're like, oh, laborers, I guess. And then like they're hearing some people watch a baseball game, or I'm sorry, they hear some people listening to a baseball game because it's on radio. It's even more old timey, and they're listening on radio. And Tamir is like, oh, is that like some kind of combat sport? And Mistral like, no, I think it's entertainment. It's like, oh, he actually understands humanity a lot better than the other two Vulcans.
Yeah,
With
he
him, like,
definitely reads the signs quicker. Because
yeah,
he also, whenever the laborers, the miners are getting off the bus, she's like, oh, are they forced, like, are they prisoners or something like
yeah.
that?
Are they like enslaved workers?
Yeah, yeah. But I also think it's important to point out that it was Mistral who was like, I'm going to the town. Like, I'm
Yeah,
not sitting here
Yeah.
and waiting around. And I think it's kind of interesting that he basically broke his captain's orders, right? Like she's like, we're not going into town. Like that's putting everything on the line. That's too much. And he's like, well, too bad. I'm going anyway, and you can come with me or not.
yeah. For a
um,
Vulcan, he's very mavericky. Like
yeah,
he makes Talen seem pretty tame. You know?
yeah.
Remarkable. Yeah. So do you think, because there's never any mention of translators, so do you think they just learned English? Because they could probably learn English in a few hours or something. They're Vulcans. They could do that stuff.
Oh
Like while they
yeah,
were in orbit. Because I mean,
possibly.
there was radio. So he might even know about radio.
Well, they may also know the language from like studying the planet before even setting down. I don't know, like
Yeah.
if they're just listening in and learning it before they even make contact at all or whatever.
Yeah, Star Trek can be a little weird with the translator rules. Like there's sometimes in Star Trek when like a character like clearly does not have their comm badge near them,
Yeah.
yet it still seems like all the language is getting translated. So
But with Vulcans, it's a little more, you can jump to, well, they know it. But
yeah, I guess I assumed that they were using some form of the universal translator in this episode, but yeah, maybe they did just learn English from radio transmissions and stuff. But yeah, Mistral, you could tell, like, 15 minutes in the episode, you can be like, okay, he's the one who's going to want to like go native and stay on Earth.
for
All
sure.
the signs
Yeah.
are there. It also cracks me up when
Yeah.
Tamir tells him not to speak to anyone. He's like, oh yeah, I
Of
won't I
course.
won't say anything. And then when they're in the bar, he's like, oh well, I'll play you in some pool. Like we need grocery money, so and some of those
Yeah.
cryogenic
Currency.
fish sticks. So
Well, to be fair, he does watch her speak first. Like she's like, "Do you have anything that does not require currency?" Like she's so formal and everyone's so polite and casual and stuff. And he's probably watching this like, like the
I
vibes
love,
are off.
yeah.
Like I need to step in a little bit.
I love the two. Right before that, she moves the ashtray out like it's touching like a toilet. She's just like kind of.
She's
It's
like,
really
"Ew."
great from Jolene. She just it's a little bit of business that's hysterical.
Yeah, she has a
it,
lot of subtle humanity in
Yeah,
there.
I liked that line from her when she says, "We had an accident with our vehicle outside of your
yeah,
town." It's like, yeah, that's
totally true.
actually true. Yeah, well said.
And Mestral kind of almost comes off like sort of like a survivalist character. Like he's always thought about what you do in situations, and he suggests stuff that he might not want to do, but you could do to survive. You could eat the deer. You could talk to the people. You could risk cultural contamination. you could do all this if you're careful, and they could survive, and then
But
Yeah.
even though he's not a Starfleet character, he very much like embodies a lot of those Starfleet values. He's so fascinated with these humans, with this culture, just being able to observe it up close. And he's like, "Oh, I understand this. I can integrate into this. I know what role to perform. I know how to like play this pool game and get this money and interact with the waitress and all. Like he like understands it. He's like, this is fun. It's almost kind of like like an experiment for him."
he's not quite as afraid of socializing with the natives as Tamir is. But
Before we went live, having this discussion, Joel did point out like how much money did he win playing pool to be able to afford all those groceries? They load up pretty good.
yeah, there's signs on the outside of the grocery store that it's cheap. It's the 50s, but it's still like 17, 18 cents for a lot of things, and they have 2 full bags.
Does that
So
say eggs 2 cents on? There's a sign in the window, I believe, when you see them leave the grocery store. It's like that's like the thing right now is that the price of eggs keeps going up. So
I blame Sputnik. Ever since Sputnik went up,
that's what it is. Yeah,
the eggs have just increased. Every satellite increases the price of eggs.
yeah. Bird flu doesn't help either, but
True.
you have any other thoughts on the pine tree bar and that first scene introducing Maggie and Jack?
Yeah, it's great to see Mestral be like, well, it's just geometry. A child could do it, which a lot of people could say, but Vulcan pulls it off because he can not only do the angles, but he can do the physical thing of launching the ball just right. And then Tamir, when she realizes that she has to have a drink, and she's just like, I would have to socialize with them. And the utter horror this brings to her is just absolutely lovely. I love it.
Yeah, although Billy seemed like an all right guy. Like he didn't seem that bad.
Yeah. And she's a Vulcan. She could crush him with her hand. So.
Well, it's after they talk about like the pool shark part of the story. That's when Trip does like the now wait a minute. You expect me to believe that 2 Vulcans walk into a bar in 1957 Pennsylvania? He's not about it. He says it sounds like something that would have happened in an old episode of The Twilight Zone. I love that line. That's another thing I remember about watching this. In 2002, UPN tried to revive The Twilight Zone, and it was actually, I believe it aired back to back with Star Trek Enterprise. Like after Enterprise, The Twilight Zone would come on.
Yeah, I think so.
So that version of The Twilight Zone didn't last very long, but Ira Stephen Bear worked on it.
Yeah, I barely watched that version, but
they mention
I
I Love
remember.
Lucy in this episode also. So two classic American TV shows, Twilight Zone and I Love Lucy. They both have some Star Trek connections. There are so many TOS actors who showed up in the Twilight Zone. Shatner, Nimoy, Takei, and also Lucille Ball, integral to the creation of Star Trek. At least in finding a production studio to make it. So, kind of fun to have those name dropped in this episode. But T'Pol explains that the 3 Vulcans, they took whatever employment they could find, and they mention a couple times in this episode about the Cold War and the fear of nuclear annihilation, and like the late 1950s. This is still before the Cuban Missile Crisis, but there is like an escalation in people developing and stockpiling nuclear, specifically the United States and the Soviet Union. I think by this point, by 1957, both sides had enough nuclear weapons to destroy the Earth multiple times. So, probably not the most stable planet to be on. I guess, if I was a Vulcan visiting in 2025, I'd be a bit nervous also. But Oh, we also get a reference to the Three Stooges, so a lot of
Yes.
20th century pop culture mentioned in this episode.
Ever suffering Vulcans being referred to as Mo.
Yeah,
So
so
sad.
the
Strong.
Vulcan Strawn got called Mo by Mrs. Garrett's son when she went over there to fix her sink. And I love how Mistral has figured out humanity and Earth so well. Like he starts trolling Strawn, but he's totally like he's making fun of him. He's trolling him, and Strawn doesn't even know. And he says to him like, "Oh well, maybe Mrs. Garrett enjoys your company, and that's why she's hiring you for all these like repairs." Or he's like, "Oh, maybe Mrs. Garrett has a crush on you. Maybe she likes you, And he's like. But like I feel like it just goes over Strawn's head, or like when he says like, "Well, there is a resemblance to that comic actor called Mo, one of the Stooges."
He is a stooge, yes.
Yeah, it's a very Vulcan description.
So at this point, are they giving each other haircuts because they can't go to the barber? Thus, their ears will be revealed.
Who's cutting Vulcan hair? Yeah,
I feel like it's only been a couple months, so it's growing out. But I don't think it's like I think they have to grow it out because they're trying to cover their ears anyway.
Cover their ears, yeah. Yeah, because Mistral embraces the hat, but everyone else is just like, no.
Maybe his hair doesn't grow as fast.
But also in the scene, Tamir calls the TV an idiotic device when she says to Mistral, like, all you do is sit in front of that idiotic device.
And like
I think I have the line here
everywhere. Mistral says, I'm doing research.
You sit for hours each day in front of this idiotic device. And he's like, yeah, I'm doing research. It's like, oh, this is like when I'm prepping for a podcast episode and I watch like the same episode of Star Trek all week. It's like I sit in front of the idiotic device doing research.
Yeah, now, sorry, Paramount Plus. I'm not going to watch the next episode. I'm going to rewatch Carbon Creek again for research.
But Paramount Plus also has I Love Lucy and The Twilight Zone streaming. I don't know about Three Stooges, but yeah, this episode is just like a big promo for Paramount Plus in a lot of ways. But yeah, it's at this moment when Tamir is like giving Mistral shit about watching TV all the time. That's when he says he has to go to the store to pick up a what do you call it? Waveform discriminator. Oh, he's going to the ship. He's going to the ship to get the waveform discriminator. Okay, that makes more sense because yeah, that doesn't sound like something like you get at Radio Shack on Earth. So
not yet.
He needed the waveform discriminator for the Earth TV though, because he was going to try to watch I Love Lucy. Okay, so when he should have been trying to, I guess that at this point they had given up on if their signal got transmitted off of Earth. They've given up on. It's just like, well, I guess our signal didn't reach anyone, and we don't have any way of like getting another signal out now. So
because the Vulcans would have come right away if they would have got the signal right away.
Right. So we eventually learn why there is a delay, but it turns out Mistral's not really going to get the waveform discriminator. He's going on a date with Maggie the waitress. They're going to a baseball game, and we get. When they return, when Maggie is dropping Mistral off, they get that awkward kiss in the truck. What do y'all think of that?
It's a pretty fun scene. Yeah.
He says it was a very, very pleasant. I like her reaction though. I really like her performance.
Yeah, and Gyllenhaal, right?
No, this is
and Cusack.
I got screwed up before because you mentioned.
Well, I just mentioned Jake.
One of those families. One of those
actor families.
Yeah,
and this character's name is Maggie. So because it's Maggie Gyllenhaal. Yeah, I really liked this scene. I thought it was cute. He was so excited about going to the baseball game after listening to them on the radio and stuff.
That's true what he said.
It's so much more invigorating in person.
But baseball is like one of the like best sports to watch in person if you can get it, invested. Like you're kind of hanging on the edge of your seat with like every pitch. But that doesn't really translate to TV that well. Like on TV, I think it can be the most boring sport to watch. So that ring, but yeah, I mean that sounds like this guy really does understand humanity. He's getting these nuanced things like that and.
He's trying. So, I mean, no one else there is trying.
Yeah, I thought their
They're just
conversation in the
suffering.
car was very cute. And he kind of like does give her some like interested eyes, like he's into her. And I love that she initiates the kiss after like waiting for him to initiate. Like there's kind of an awkward pause and then she just like leans in. I think that
Yeah,
was so cute. And I
she's
felt so bad for her after though, because she was like, oh, this is uncomfortable and awkward. And it was like, no, you were fine.
she
Like,
has those 1950s values, so she's probably
yeah.
like, "Oh no, he's gonna think I'm the town tramp for kissing him." Or, uh, she also like apologizes though for being so emotional, and she's like talking about like her husband who left, and it's like you're really not being that emotional. Like you're
Yeah.
pretty
Well, I
calm.
think
Like
she felt worse when she kind of made fun of the hat for a second. It's like, what's
Uh-huh.
under there? And then he's like reacts, and she's like, oh my goodness, I didn't mean it's a sensitive issue.
Yeah, there's definitely some roller coaster emotions in this scene for her. And I love that when she says like, "Oh, I usually keep a lid on my emotions, like sometimes it's hard." And he's like, "I
Yes.
understand." Because he
yes,
also like is relating to all these emotions and even though he is a Vulcan and they like suppress their emotions whatever, it does seem like with his human relatability, he does have that emotional relatability as well. So I thought it was really a cute scene.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't
and
think
I
he's been suppressing as much lately since he got stranded.
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
to kind of fit in more on Earth. I think he is,
I think so.
easing up on that Vulcan discipline, and I also think that it is probably safe for us to assume that he's enjoying that, and that is part of the attraction of life on Earth to him.
Right, a
You know,
little
Yeah.
less restrictive.
right, right. It's really funny though the shot of Tamir like standing there watching them kiss in the
Yeah.
truck. That's so funny
It's
when you
It
see
so
the
is
menacing.
so awkward. She just looks so upset. Not like upset, but like she's like, I can see what you've been doing now. Like you're caught and you have betrayed the
Yeah.
Vulcanness and
no
how
she,
dare you
yeah
kiss a gross human.
yeah
If
she's
this was
so
a
pissy
Terminator
about
movie, that would be the Terminator reveal right there.
It is so creepy, but I honestly laugh every time it cuts to her like this, like because it's so funny. Like it seems like this scene is so like cute and sweet, and then it just cuts to that, and like it's almost like whiplash humor. I don't know, like the juxtaposition of the emotion is so funny.
when she says you were engaging in intimate activity. It's like it's just like her like disgust at it. It's similar to Strawn being like, "Are you suggesting we eat this deer, this ant?" Like he's so like
Yeah.
disgusted by that. It's like the same thing here about like you would kiss a human, like gross intimate activity.
Yeah.
But yeah, she chews out Mistral, and he's basically like, "Well, if I had told you the truth, you would have said no." But when they have
Yeah.
that kind of like waveform discriminator, my ass, you were sucking face with a human. I caught you red-handed.
Yeah, I wonder what Maggie thought. It's like, oh look, it's your business associate.
But that's another thing is in the bar. One of the first things Maggie says to Mir and Mistral, she says like, "Are you two married? Are you folks married?" Something like
Yeah,
that. So I think she had her eyes on Mistral early on,
Yeah.
I think so.
at least on some curiosity level.
Well, he's also really good at pool. Her son
Yeah.
really
Yeah,
likes pool, so you know.
And they're much all the well, she doesn't know they're Vulcans, but all three are much. I bet she feels comfortable having her kid around these three than a lot of the townsfolk, especially the bar. So
well,
because they're
to
not
me,
drinking, they're not. I mean, they only gamble and win, so it's a little different.
Tamir is helping out at the bar though. Like Tamir is
Yeah.
like cleaning up the bar, so she's got like a part-time job there. I got because they talked about they found employment where they could. So
Mhm.
it's actually like at the bar where Tamir and Jack have a conversation, and Jack is talking about how he's like so into was into a lot of things, but like into astronomy specifically. But he was also like he wanted to learn more about meditation. He's just like intellectually curious, like
Mhm.
uh obviously, to get the audience to be like, "Ah, this kid has to go to college. Are you kidding me?" Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was really cute to finally have Tamir recognize like a human that she can relate to, because he's talking about like the meditation techniques, and he's like genuinely impressed about some of the, he's like, you wouldn't believe it, but there are some people who can like say they almost stop their heart when they're meditating or whatever. And she's like, well, you'd be surprised what a disciplined mind can do or whatever. And so I think that's like the first time that she's actually impressed by like a human,
mhm.
being intellectual and curious.
It's the
So
first time we've seen her enjoy any aspect of this planet,
yeah.
honestly. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I
like,
think that he's such a sweet kid. Like I was a little worried he was going to get
Yeah.
creepy like at any point. Like there's 2 conversations he has with her, and both times I was like, please don't be weird. Please don't be weird. And they were both really good, like innocent, sweet, like genuine conversations. Like he just really wanted to know her, and he was just curious. Like he's like, oh well, you're really smart, and you have like you come from somewhere, like I don't know, like he just is saying like they're so different from the people that he's used to, so he's like magnetized to these 3 people.
yeah, he found someone who's like, oh, I can like nerd out about Sputnik with this person, and like when
Yeah.
he asks her like, oh, do you want to go see, like, we can go see it with the naked eye, and she's like, I've seen it. But it's like she's seen it like really up close, from their survey.
I almost
ship,
hit it with a ship.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's probably like, that damn thing is the reason that my ship crashed and I've been
Yeah.
stuck here for months.
Yeah, we crashed into your damn Sputnik satellite, and that's why
Yeah.
we're wrecked here in Pennsylvania in the
Yeah.
1950s.
But Jack's performance is great too. It's written well and it's performed really well.
Agree.
And
Very
I didn't clock that before Taylor, but yeah, he's the most Vulcan human that she meets in this episode. So
Yeah.
it's like, oh, you're actually not that offensive to me, unlike the rest of your planet.
Right.
We also see Mistral working in the mines, and when there's a cave in, he wants to get the particle weapon out of the Vulcan ship to rescue the trapped miners. And this is when Strawn and Tamir are kind of like, come on now, like we really shouldn't interfere. But Mistral gives them that speech about compassion, and then Tamir kind of I guess like she kind of like scans with the scanner and tells him where
She
to
helps with
shoot.
plausible deniability. Yeah. She's not in the mine. She just happens to be taking a walk.
Yeah, I was really upset with Strawn and Tamir at first when they're like, we're not going to help them. I was
No,
kind of
just
like,
gonna let
what
them
the
die.
hell? Like, a lot of those people very personally. Like, that's kind of crazy that they would even, after having made that connection with these people, let them die. So I really dig that Mistral, advocated for his friends and was like, well, I'm going to help them. Like, you can either help me or not. And they were like, okay, fine, we'll help you.
And it's a great through line through the Prime Directive, especially the TNG episodes more than anything, where it's just like, no, Prime Directive, yeah, they're all gonna die. It's too bad, but and we all know that's just not ethical, and we see that perhaps the Federation got a lot of that directly from the Vulcans here.
Yeah.
yeah. That Vulcan influence was pretty strong as far as like the Prime Directive rules, but
It also
which is one of
feels a little
Enterprise's
bit.
themes. I mean,
Yeah, it feels a little bit too like Strawn and Tamir are like, well, we should make sure he does it right. Like, what if he does accidentally
he's gonna
like
screw it up.
show?
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
might screw it up, and I'm gonna be here to like micromanage his little mission to make sure that he doesn't accidentally expose the
He might go
humans.
deer hunting with that thing, that weapon, and then we'll get distracted. And
Yeah.
as he eats
But
raw venison, howling.
I
at the
think
moon.
there was a continuity issue here, because in one of the scenes when the cave first collapsed, they said that there was 20 men trapped, and then after he rescues them and
He says
busts
12.
out the wall,
Yeah.
it says 12. Yeah. So I'm like, did 8 people, because they say they rescued 12 miners, and I was like, does that mean that 8 died? Do they
It
talk
could,
about
if,
that?
yeah,
well might.
because if that the mine fell on them, yeah, that could be instant death, and they're not fixing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
They didn't say specifically, but I did notice the 20 and the 12 too.
Okay, cool.
That is,
But I don't think anyone died of suffocation.
Right.
The initial mine accident might have killed some, but everyone else was going to die of suffocation eventually.
Yeah.
Or there were 8 that were able to get out some other way that the other ones couldn't, maybe.
But he didn't like
Mm.
those 8. They weren't his friends, so he left those 8 to balance their
he's like,
cultural.
y'all are on your own.
I did like right before the mine had the tremor and collapsed. I can't remember the pool guy's name. Billy, the pool guy.
Yeah.
He's talking to Mistral and he's like inviting him to go to another game or whatever. And he's like, "You're acting kind of awkward. Like, what's going on with you lately?" You know, because he had that talk with Tamir. So I guess he's like kind of been holding back on like hanging out with his friends and stuff. And like, I thought that was such a great friendship conversation. Like, you could tell that Billy really like loves Mistral and loves engaging him. And he was even like, you know, Maggie's been talking like that you've been acting strange too. Like, and I love that he kind of is making that insinuation that they're a thing, you know, like, it's so cute. And I think it's just like it's like 1 or 2 lines or something that he has, but it just gives so much depth to like the relationships that they're making, you know, and like the integration that has been going on.
It's just, it kind of cracks me up, that moment though, when the cave-in starts and kind of interrupts their moment that they're having. Because then like Mistral asks Billy, he's like, "Are you okay?" And he's just like, "Yeah," or like something. He's just like very like calmly, just like, "Yeah, I'm okay," or like what is. It's like, why are you so chill, bro? Like, that sounds like there's like a pretty lethal event happening around y'all, but
he's in shock. He doesn't realize what's going on yet.
he's just a chill dude, you know. He's like, I don't care as long as I get to go shoot some pool at the.
It's the
at
black
Pine
lung,
Tree
you know.
Bar.
It takes it out of you.
Yeah. Well, after that, there's a bit of like a time jump forward, and then they eventually do get a signal back from the Vulcan High Command. It turned out that oh yeah, there were some Tellarites who relayed the message, and you know, took them a while to finally let us know, but we did finally get that signal from you that your ship was going down. We'll send someone to rescue you shortly. So they know that they're gonna have their salvation. They're gonna leave Earth, and Mistral was not super excited about that, but I guess Strawn and Tamir, it was good news for them. But this is also when we find out that Jack wasn't able to raise enough money for his college tuition, and Tamir has to take matters into her own hands and get the patent for Velcro to fund this boy's education.
Yeah, I love that conversation that Jack and Tamir have in the parking lot when she's sweeping. And he says, "I'm going to miss you. You're the most interesting people," you know? And then I also love whenever he tells her that he's not going to college. Tamir kind of has like this like incredulous look of like, she's like
What?
almost pissed off. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, not on my watch. Like, I love that like flip in her mind. Like, she's kind of been like, I'm not gonna get involved at all. And I think in that moment she's like, shit, I'm gonna have to get involved.
Yeah, she had like so much like immediate like investment and conviction, and like
Yeah,
wait a
yeah,
minute, what's going on here? Like, no, we need to
yeah,
straighten this out. So
yeah.
Because she's
But
disgusted by humanity, but she really
yeah.
likes this one human.
but
Yeah, exactly. I love that he was so positive though. He was like, "Don't worry, there's always like the mine and the library. Like, I'll keep learning.
yeah,
Like, don't, you know." He was so like, even though like this is like a life changing in the negative way for him, like he's still so positive and like, you know, "Don't worry about me. Like, I'll still keep learning." I think that was such a cool line for him to tell her. Like, "Don't worry, it's okay." You know, like he's comforting her, which is so,
Yeah.
you know, like that's such an empathetic thing for a human to do, is to comfort
yeah.
someone whenever they're telling their own pain.
Especially for like an 18-year-old,
Yeah.
for an 18-year-old to be that selfless and
Yeah.
mature is you know, pretty impressive. Um,
Maybe he had to spend time behind the bar. He had to become the town psychologist along with his mom.
Yeah,
Hear
yeah.
everyone, and just made him emotionally intelligent, far
Yeah.
beyond his age.
That's totally fair. A lot of
Yeah,
bartenders
they're
do say that
good at
they're working out things with their customers and stuff.
yeah.
I think that's a very noble profession, is bartending. Quark would agree, but I think that's like a very like essential part of society though. It's like, oh yeah, they're just like as important as like doctors or engineers or any like you need someone to, like pour the drinks up, right? Like who the hell like no one needs like the entire like insurance industry or like like a lot of these other like no one
Yeah.
needs like analysts or whatever, but like bartender, like that's a use, you're serving society doing that
That's right.
job. But um but when the Vulcans are preparing for their rescue ship, like it kind of shows us that the Earth kind of won over all of them. Like not just Tamir with getting the college money for Jack, but also Strawn. He's working on Mrs. Garrett's vacuum, even though like they're
Yeah.
about to leave Earth, and it doesn't matter. They don't need the money anymore. They're gonna have to pay for the next month's rent, but he still felt honor bound to do this job for
Yeah.
Mrs. Garrett and her dumb kid that's gonna call him Mo.
And they all dress much more Earth-like. They've jumped.
Yeah.
It's not just the stolen clothes they found, but especially when Tamir goes to the Velcro, she thought about that outfit. I mean, and yeah, it's like
Oh,
head and
she's like,
shoulders above what she
yeah,
was wearing before.
I'm gonna wear
Yeah.
something cute to the patent office.
Something
Um,
business professional.
yeah, something
And she really
professional.
liked the purse she found. So
Yeah, I guess it like stuck around in the family for a while, according to the last scene of
even
the
if it didn't have
episode.
Velcro on it. So
When when they are having like their conversation about like the Vulcan ship's about to come get us, and Mistral doesn't want to go, and he says there's still so much more to learn about these people, and then Tamir has the really spicy line, all of them or just one.
you just want to do intimate things.
Yeah, you want more intimate activity in
Like
that
all the
truck.
time. You're not even gonna wait for Ponfar. Oh my god.
But I like this moment. I like when Mistral kind of makes his again. Thinking about like for a Vulcan, he's like an insane person. He's like such a maverick. But yeah, like so much of this
Yeah.
episode is him just being like, "Oh, I think we should go into the town. I think we should rescue the miners. I think I should stay behind." And I guess like Tamir is like, "I guess this is just what this guy is gonna do. So I'm just gonna."
She's already learned for these months that she can't control him. She's like, I'm his commanding officer, but he don't listen to me, so I'm just gonna
And this is
accept
truly
it.
what he wants. There's no denying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Cake is Eternal in the live audience is pointing out that Mistral is actually named after George de Mistral, the real life inventor of Velcro. So yeah, maybe the paperwork that Tamir forges, maybe it gives credit to a human. Oh yeah, like some human a few years ago developed this, and that's why we have inconsistent historical documents in real life that doesn't line up with the Velcro creation we see here in this episode in 57. But that is like the unique thing of this episode is like the Velcro angle. Like I feel like okay, kind of like the Prime
Yeah.
Directive story that's been done a lot. I think there's a lot of like, oh, Sputnik and Pennsylvania coal mines. It's very October skies. But the Velcro thing, okay, that was a nice touch. I didn't see
Yeah,
that
Mestral
coming the
is
first time I watched this.
reverse Jillian, and then I mean they redo that in Discovery too, or Picard, I should say. But yeah, but the Velcro, yeah, that's fun.
I do love that when Mistral is saying that he's going to stay on Earth, like Tamir suggests putting him on the next survey ship. And he's like, in 20 years from now? What the hell? No, thank you. But I thought it was actually kind of nice of her to suggest something for him to like come back. Like, even though it
Yeah.
wasn't like, it was kind of a compromise. And I thought that was very
Yeah, she's
character
trying to meet
growth of
him
her.
halfway. Yeah,
Right, right. But I think in this one scene alone, you can see so much character growth from the whole episode, like summed up, with Strawn being actually more patient with Mrs. Garrett's vacuum and all of the things that she needs fixed. And then with Tamir being more patient and understanding of Mistral's like interest in humans, and Mistral's like over eagerness to stay. And like it's like everyone's kind of come into all these growths. And I feel like this one scene just kind of sums up everything that we've learned about them, you know?
Aaron in the live audience is pointing out Velcro, transparent aluminum. Like there was even like some help with warp drive. Zephram Cochran and Lily had to get some help, at least like repairing the board damage in First Contact. He says, "Did we invent anything?" You also have to remember, Aaron. The other one is in Voyager in the Sarah Silverman episodes. We find out that we also got the microchip from the future. So
that's right. But remember, humanity wrote Magic Carpet Ride, and that's what we really needed to get the warp drive going. So
yeah, that was a big part of what the Phoenix ran off of. They didn't have dilithium; they just had some classic rock.
Steppenwolf crystals, I guess. Yeah.
But when the Vulcan rescue ship finally does show up, Strawn and Tamir are cool about it. They just, I guess, lie and say that Mistral died, cremated him
Vulcans
along with the
don't
captain.
lie.
Well, this is
Lies,
pre
Spock. Yeah,
this is pre Kashara Vulcans.
it is
This
true.
is
It is
pre
true.
season 4 of Enterprise. So these Vulcans do lie, but that's okay because season 4 of Enterprise is so good it explains that. I kind of like the Vulcans had to grow also, just as well as the humans had some growing to do. So it ended up working out for me, but yeah. So the Vulcans who want to leave. The Vulcan who wanted to stay stayed, and Trip and Archer sitting around the table are like, "Is this all for real?" You tell me like this guy could live another 150 years on Earth. Like after that, like you tell me this Vulcan was just walking around on Earth from 1957 onward. And T'Pol does the well, you asked me to tell you a story, and then she says, if you check my records, you'll notice I also visited Yellowstone Park and Carlsbad Caverns. I'm a scientist that includes geology, just kind of like suggesting that she was only in Carbon Creek for some geological reason. But
you get the feeling she would have told them the truth, but Trip's being a jerk.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they have to know that she's telling the truth because she'll say it was a personal matter, not a geological like investigation for Carbon Creek. But I also did like hearing the shout outs for Yellowstone and Carlsbad Caverns. I thought that was fun. And I do like the part where she kind of trolls Trip whenever he's like, "Oh, this is like finding out Neil Armstrong wasn't the first man to walk on the moon." And she says, "Perhaps he was not." And he just like groans and like pulls his head down. Like that's too much for him to even consider. That was a really fun line. I loved her trolling him.
Well, nobody tell Trip about Guinan hanging out with Mark Twain, or that would make his head explode. And like that's not even getting into Kukulkan and Apollo and a lot of like mythological gods that turned out they were aliens. We had the Megans here with Lucian and Asmodeus. So yeah, it turns out there's been a lot of alien visitors on Earth
and godlike beings and blah blah blah. Yeah.
That actually was going to be a bigger thing in Star Trek Picard Season 2. There was at one point they were going to have a lot more aliens living in secret on Earth in modern-day Los Angeles. I'm kind of glad they didn't do that because I don't want Star Trek to just be like, oh, it's like Men in Black, and there's just like aliens running around modern-day Earth like all the time.
I wish they would have had Carol Kane in the background and not said anything. And
that would have been cool.
Strange New Worlds would reveal, and it would have been like, yes.
But they would have... Picard Season 2 would have been shot like when Season 1 of Strange New Worlds was in production. So I don't think we would have known about her casting back then. But yeah, that would have been so cool if they could. I still would love to see Palia show up, and she could be an Academy too,
Yeah.
Go the other direction just as easily. But I wonder what she was doing in 1957.
She probably had her antique store already up in, what was it, Connecticut?
Yeah, I think so. Somewhere near the Canadian border.
But I don't think it was New Hampshire, but
maybe Vermont.
I don't know. Could be. One of those tiny states.
Y'all have anything else on the episode or like the ending of the episode?
Well, I think the ending makes it, but
yeah.
I mean, I love the rest, but that reveal is DePaul's character development. It's like a whole season of character development right here. Not that she did in the first season, but this can explain why she's there to begin with, why she volunteered to go to Earth with the Vulcans. Because she was given this probably, I assume, when she was younger, by her great grandmother. She's obviously told the story by her, I assume, by her great grandmother. Maybe she died in a rock climbing accident in Yosemite or something. But it explains why no one else could stand more than 10 days with humans. But she goes to Earth, works in the consulate. She gets, not just because she wants to, but other people get her involved, and she gets it on the NX-01. She lasts a year. She doesn't seem to mind it. She doesn't. Yeah, they smell, but I mean, that purse right there. I mean, I wonder even if the Vulcans preserved it, so it still stank like humans a little. So even from a wee little Vulcan, she kind of knew, but associated it with a great story from her great grandmother.
Yeah, and maybe how many stories?
Everything about the reveal.
Yeah, and how many stories maybe her great grandma had passed down about humans, like where she's met Jack and like Maggie, and like actually has like really specific stories, not just generalized human stories, for her to have like that connection. That's a great point. I never thought about that being like her reason for accepting this role on the Enterprise, is like, oh, well, I have, the first contact that my great grandmother had with humans. That's cool. But yeah, I love the reveal with the purse. That's a great ending.
I never thought of that
why
either.
does she have it with her? It's literally, she's based her life on this.
Yeah. Wow, that's so deep, Joel.
Yeah, no,
You're changing my life.
I love this episode. It's ambiguous. You can't say for sure, but I really like ambiguity because it makes you think and fill in the blanks. But yes, this reveal, it's world building, it's character development. You had it the whole episode, but it just crystallizes right here. And yeah, I just think it's amazing, which is weird too, because like all the other stuff, Berman and Brandon, what's his name?
Brandon Braga.
I'm confusing their names. This is way above what they were doing. Now, they did want to put this episode into season 1. I did read that they thought about putting this episode earlier, but there wasn't enough development to. It's better where they put it right at the beginning of season 2. So, but this is way above what the rest of most of their shows were doing, and yeah. So it's sort of amazing that some of the people who did the most gross things in Enterprise are responsible for some. I mean, it's a beautiful episode, and I'm just amazed.
Well, I think. Sorry, Joel, real quick. I just want to say thank you to Matthew Averett for the $10 super chat. Matthew says, this goes to show that even Vulcans respect ancestry.
For sure. I was just going to say the super chat, so I didn't have anything else to say. But
I also want to point out Daniel Hall in the live audience says, in beta canon, Mistral had some interactions with Flint and Supervisor 194/Gary 7 and Roberta. So he's the type of character that like the books would love, because you can just pull him into any story set in the 20th or 21st century. But yeah, I think it would be interesting to do a Star Trek show that's actually set in modern day Earth, like like what Assignment Earth was going to be. Like, I think they could do that now. They could make a show and you could call it Star Trek Assignment Earth and have it be like about like a supervisor. But you could have people like Palea could show up, Mistral could show up. There's enough here, Guinan, like in Picard season 2.
You just have one person from the future whose Starfleet gets stuck there, and there's a reason they can't leave.
You do a reverse You do a reverse Buck Rogers, basically.
Yeah. Not stuck in the Delta Quadrant. Stuck in 20th century Earth. Yeah.
And you got like some of the time traveling Romulans that we saw in Tomorrow, and Strange New
Well, you
Worlds.
always have to
them
fight.
show
Yeah,
up.
they're always screwing
Yeah.
things up.
Yeah, so they can be like your big bad, like any of the temporal Cold War people. We know not Sulabons and Tholians and other people that were involved in that. So from Enterprise. So I think that'd be fun to do. Honestly, you could even bring in Carl and the Guardian of Forever. I don't know if it's set on Earth. I don't know how you would go. Well, no, the Guardian can go to multiple planets. He's mobile because he's in a different planet in Discovery when they find him. So
and he likes the 20th century. That's how he dressed in what?
In the 32nd century.
Yeah, that's how he dressed. Yeah, in the 32nd century.
So, well, I'm just checking my notes to see if I have anything else that I didn't bring up, but I think I got everything. So, unless y'all have anything else, we can go ahead and go into the Gorn Egg section of the show.
No, I think that's everything.
Very cool. So, that being said, we will go ahead and talk about the Gorn Eggs. These are the Easter eggs, in jokes, and continuity connections. I thought it would be worthwhile to mention here. But we get the line from Trip in this episode. Every school kid knows that Zephram Cochrane met the Vulcans in Bozeman, Montana on April 5th, 2063. I've been there. There is a statue. We know about that date and that statue from the movie Star Trek First Contact. Geordi even describes the statue. He's like, there's a statue of you right here with your hand stretched out like you're reaching out to the future or something like that. And then we actually, in Star Trek Lower Decks, we see the statue at Bozeman. So in the Lower Decks episode Grounded that opened season 3. We also get the line from Trip asking to Paul, just how old are you? And while she does not answer here,
Trip.
We do get
so rude.
Yeah, it is rude. But we actually get the answer from her in the Star Trek Enterprise Season 3 finale 0 Hour, when she tells Trip, I'm not old. I will only be 66 years old on my next birthday.
See?
So,
yeah.
DePaul looking good at 66. We have the same actor, Julian Blaylock, playing both T'Pol and her ancestor, Tamir. And this has happened in Star Trek several times. I think the most obvious parallel is the Voyager episode 1159, when we see Kate Mulgrew play one of Janeway's ancestors, also in the 20th century Earth. She's in Indiana in 1999 in that episode. But it's also something we saw in Picard. Speaking of Picard season 2, with Talon, the ancestor of Laris, which I thought that was such a just poor excuse to try to shoehorn in more acting for Orla Brady, but as like a different character. Like, I don't know. I think they should have just considering like how Laris didn't actually end up like being used for anything. They should just have like Laris like sent back in time to be this protector of Picard's ancestor, Renee Picard.
That was a weird choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a great actress. I was glad to see her, but
they also have done this with too many instances to count with Brent Spiner playing multiple Soong ancestors, but he's Noonien Soong, he's Eric Soong, he's Adam Soong, so he's kind of Soonged out at this point. And also Michael Dorn played Colonel Worf, I guess the father of Moog, so Worf, grandfather of Worf, both played by Michael Dorn. The stealing laundry to get some disguises to blend in on vintage Earth. We saw that trick before in Star Trek in City on the Edge of Forever, speaking of Carl. And
Do we get a date? I don't think we get an exact date, because if we did, we should all hang up laundry outside the night before to honor Carbon Creek Day. But I don't think we had an exact date.
no, we just know that it would have to be in October of 57 and later, because that's when Sputnik was launched. And then Vulcan's being good at shooting pool, and we get the line in this episode about pool. This game is based on simple geometry. It wouldn't challenge a Vulcan child. We also saw that Tuvok liked shooting pool on the holodeck in Voyager. We see Tuvok playing a game of pool in the episode Jetrel in Voyager Season 1. And then the mention of the Tellarite ship that relayed the signal to Vulcan High Command. So this is the second time that Tellarites were mentioned in Star Trek Enterprise. The first time they were mentioned in the episode Civilization. I really, really wanted a Tellarite to be on screen in Star Trek Enterprise in these early days. It felt like they kept teasing us, but then here, the second episode of Season 2, they name drop the Tellarites again. We eventually will see Tellarites in Enterprise, starting with the Season 2 episode Bounty. That was near the end of Season 2, so foreshadowed that a bit here in the other thing I wanted to mention is Tamir tells Jack that they're going to return up north. I guess like she's saying like they're from Canada.
Yeah, because Pennsylvania is not that big north to south, but
yeah, I mean it could have been like New York or like New England is all like
or
north
Maine,
of
but
Pennsylvania.
it could be, but
I just assumed she meant Canada. But they always say this. They always say like up north, like in the Star Trek Enterprise episode North Star, when that was like their Western episode where they got to dress up as cowboys. But when they were on that planet, Archer was saying that they were from up north, and then Pike has done this twice. When he went to the Church planet in the Discovery episode New Eden, he said that they were from up north, and then when they were on the Rigel play, what is it, Rigel 4, Rigel 7, where they had the red shirt that went AWOL, but the Strange New Worlds episode Among the Lotus Eaters, when they're caught by the Kalar, Pike tries to tell them like, "Oh, we're from up north." they don't really buy it, but
I feel like it's because if you go up, Rachel just said in the audience, well, up is true because space. So like north, if you're thinking about like the compass in front of you when you're standing on the ground, north would be up into space. So that's how I've always read it. Is like an
every
in-joke.
planet has a north.
It's a joke for whoever's on the planet.
It was a joke that I didn't get until a couple days ago, because when I was like I was thinking about like how many times has this happened in Star Trek, and I was actually like listing it out, and I was like, why do they keep saying this? Then like it dawned on me like, oh, why did it take me years to figure this out? But yes, like up, like north, like up in space, like that's where they came from. So
it's also cross-pollination with Doctor Who, because Eccleston, he has a Northern English accent, and then I think
lots of planets
early on, someone asked him, "Why do you sound like you're from the north if you're an alien?" It's like every planet has a north.
Yeah,
and then so it's sort of been cross-pollinated since the reboot of Doctor Who.
Oh, and then the last thing I have, as we mentioned during the episode, Taylor pointed out that Tamir told Mistral that maybe he could return on the next survey ship to pass near Earth. But, Tamir didn't like that because he said that, I don't want to just be running statistical scans from orbit. But it's possible that we actually see that survey mission in Star Trek Picard Season 2 in the episode, I think Mercy is the name of it. But there's some flashbacks to that Federal Agent Wells when he was a kid, which we can assume based on his age is likely the late 1970s. And he encountered some Vulcans on Earth on some type of scientific mission. So the timeline lines up. I think this is the that next survey ship that was due to pass by in 20 years, and they beamed down for some scientific research purpose. But that's cool that those connect there. That's all I have in Gorn eggs. But y'all heard all of us talk about Carbon Creek for over an hour, so you know how the three of us feel about it. Please let us know how you feel about Carbon Creek. You can comment on YouTube or Spotify, or reply to my posts on social medias to let us know, or you can join the Tex-Trek Discord server I mentioned earlier and sound off there. We got some subspace transmissions on last week's Back-Trekking Retrospective episode. We did Dark Page from TNG on YouTube. Chuck's nice review of this episode. Yes, better watch now. I didn't like it when it first aired. That was an opinion that I expressed last week. But yeah, I'm wondering like who else. Like, did you used to dismiss Dark Page, but now it's won you over? I'm curious if anyone else feels that way. And also on YouTube, opinions no one cares about, talking about Troy and naming her kids and the stuff we learn about her family in that episode, Dark Page. But opinion no one cares about says, yeah, Ian. She named her immaculately conceived son after him in The Child, named after her father, Ian Troy. And then Opinions goes on to say, and then named her daughter after her dead sister. Gotta be honest, I don't think Thad's creativity came from her. So, yeah, maybe that's just how she was. She was keeping those legacies. It was like Taylor was saying last week that we die twice. We die when we die, and then we die again when we're truly dead, when our name has been spoken for the last time. So, yeah, she's naming her kids after her dad and after her sister, just to keep that memory out there. But if people have thoughts on Carbon Creek, let us know. And Joel and I will be back next week to talk about USS Callister Into Infinity. So watch those 2 episodes of Black Mirror. It's an anthology show. You can just watch those 2 and not see anything else, and you'll have all the context to be part of that conversation. But
I want to throw out there too, for people who have issues with some Black Mirror episodes because they're really gross, and yeah, these ones aren't as bad as some of the really gross ones.
Right,
if that's like a turnoff, if that's like a turnoff for people not to watch them, I think these were better than a lot of the ones I've seen before. In terms of like grossness, like it was still like really interesting,
it's implied,
and had like there's some icky things, but they're not like at the level of what I thought
they don't show it.
Yeah, so if you've been too disturbed by past episodes of Black Mirror, because it can be an intense show for sure, like don't fear this one. Yeah, Jill is pointing out no pigs in this one. If you know, you know.
Exactly. Exactly.
But
I've only watched those 2 episodes of Black Mirror, but I've watched none of the rest.
There's a lot of quality. I haven't seen all of Black Mirror, but I've seen a lot of
always
it.
so bad. Shows bad. Until they throw Trek in it, that I'm right there.
I mean, yeah, I'm normally so busy, unpacking Star Trek that it's like, who the hell has time for like all these other TV shows? Like, there's so much.
I've watched Carbon Creek 5 times this week.
Yeah, so. There's so much context in Star Trek. It's like I can just comb over this for the rest of my life. But looking forward to changing things up a little next week, and then the week after next week. We will be doing another Back-Trekking Retrospective. I think it's an episode that a lot of people will be excited for, but I don't want to say what it is just yet. But it looks like looks like Dave might be coming back by, so we'll probably have Dave on the show in 2 weeks. So looking forward to talking some Star Trek then. But Black Mirror next week. And until next time, as always, live long and prosper, y'all.
Subscribe to YouTube to watch the Tex-Trek podcast live or listen to us later on your favorite podcast platform. Follow Stephen Fatheree on socials at TXTrek. Thank you and take care.